Welcome to Education in Focus. I'm your host, Eliana Kernodle. The Trump administration released $1.3 billion in education funding back to the states after some bipartisan pushback. Joining me to tell us more about this is the Center Square's education reporter, Esther Wickham. So last week, the big news on this front was that after the Trump administration said it would withhold $6.8 billion in federal education funding, several states sued the Trump administration. Now this week, some of that money is being released. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, thanks, Eliana. So at the beginning of this month, on June 30th, the U.S. Department of Education sent emails to various education state heads stating that this amount, $6.8 billion in federal funding, was not going to be dispersed for the school year. So this created a lot of panic and chaos, wondering, why is this being withheld? What's going on with this? So for the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of discussion back and forth on what's going to happen with this funding that's been withheld. Currently, 24 states, along with the District of Columbia, came together in a coalition to sue the Trump administration over this money being withheld. And this is all in an effort to continue in steps to dismantle the Department of Education, which is something that Trump has been wanting to do since he stepped into office. And so with this lawsuit, a lot of these education officials are wanting this funding to come back because they believe that this funding is necessary for education programs across the state. And so with this lawsuit, it was really interesting because this past week, the Trump administration, specifically the U.S. Department of Education, announced that they were actually going to be releasing $1.3 billion. But they had a caveat. They had a catch. Because according to the Office of Management and Budget, when I spoke with them about why they froze this money, why they withheld it, they stated that a lot of the programs that this funding had gone towards when it comes to all the states had been used to push different values and different ideologies that went against the Trump administration. So with this new plan in place, they're releasing, a small amount with the caveat that the federal government is saying that these funds must be allocated towards allowable activities. And I put quotation marks because they did not obviously specify what those allowable activities entail. But if the states do not follow that specific guideline, the money will be revoked. So it's really interesting because it's kind of just a small step in the direction of, okay, we're going to give you this small leeway in the funding that we have been withholding for the past 23 days. And we're going to see, what the states do with it.
And as I mentioned at the beginning, there's been some bipartisan pushback that kind of led to this release. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah. So after there was a lawsuit, a lot of pushback from specifically Democratic lawmakers and as well as more liberal leaning school districts, there wasn't really much to say on the opposite side. The Republican Party wasn't really saying much. Some people supported this. They think that as a whole, the U.S. Department of Education is not really necessary, and they want that, access and that control back to the states to be given. But 2 days following that big lawsuit, a letter was signed directly to the director of the Office of Management and Budget for the White House, Russell Voigt. This was led by 10 U.S. senators, specifically U.S. Senator Shelley Moore, who's a Republican for West Virginia. These 10 Republican senators urged the administration to unfreeze the education money and send it back to the states. So in the letter, they said, quote, "We share your concern about taxpayer money going to fund radical left-wing programs," right? Because that was the main reason why they froze the money in the first place. But they continue to say that, however, we do not believe that this is happening with these funds. So they're basically saying that the withheld money supported programs that bipartisans support. So they're saying that, this reasoning isn't valid. These programs are necessary. A lot of the funding does go towards special ed programs or disability programs. So that's kind of their fear. So this has kind of been a big reason why people think this partial money has been restored to the states, because it was only a few days after that the $1.3 billion was restored to the states. But the story still continues because education officials are saying, okay, what are you going to do with the remaining $5.5 billion? So not clear. That's still an ongoing story, but the states have small amount. They have not clarified how much is actually going to be divvied up among the states. When I reached out to the California Department of Education, they had said that they had received the news, but they had not gotten the grant award notification in funding to see how much specifically each state would get from that $1.3 billion. And again, what that specific allowable activities caveat is provided within that money giving back to the states.
Well, Esther, thank you for your insights on this story, and I'm sure you will continue to follow this as it develops, and you can read Esther's work at thecentersquare.com.